This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to a new video here in the studio. Thought I'd do one more video for you guys before I head out on my next adventure. And I wanted to sit down today and chat a little bit about creating timeless work with photography and what exactly that means, how you might want to go about doing something like that, and kind of just my outlook on the whole process. So I've been a photographer now, as I've stated numerous times on this channel, for almost 10 years now, and I've gone through many phases of photography, especially with kind of growing up with social media. You kind of hop onto trends quite often, quite frequently, and especially when I first started, I did that a lot. You know, growing up in the Pacific Northwest, especially when I did, there was this kind of boom of photography and Instagram, and everyone was shooting the same thing. And honestly, when I look back at that time, it was a blast and I had a lot of fun. But looking at the actual images that I shot, you know, they were all the same pretty much as everybody else's, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's been until recently that I've kind of been able to look at my work in more of a subjective way and look into how I might want to look at this work 10, 15, 20 years from now, and how that might actually play a part in the way that I take photos. So to me, kind of the definition of timeless photography and what that kind of looks like, I think, is when you're able to look back on someone's work, especially a large body of work that they've created, you know, in the future, right? And you can look back at something in the past and really take a look and be like, wow, this is really something that's transcended time. It's still beautiful. I still really love to look at it. And a lot of people still resonate with it. And I think that's kind of the caveat with creating timeless work in the present time, is you don't know what's going to actually stick around. You don't know what's going to be able to transcend the many years that come between now and when someone else is looking at your work. So in that sense, I think it's difficult to make photography that is timeless in the moment. But I think that there's some things that you can do to really kind of make your work a little more unique and more personal, which ultimately gives you a better opportunity to make timeless work down the road. Now, there's a few things that I look for and focus on when I'm taking photos nowadays, especially since moving to LA. I think I've allowed myself to really explore and be curious and shoot a lot of different kinds of stuff than I normally would. And I found a lot of enjoyment in shooting different kinds of photography, different styles of photography. And I think that's my first point I want to make, is there's no reason you should be limiting yourself in any sort of way, shooting one specific thing. If you want to niche down, great. But I think, especially in the beginning years of your career, it's really important to just shoot everything and see what really stands out to you, what really kind of speaks to you, and what you're able to shoot kind of on a regular basis. I think one of the best things that I've done for my photography recently is make it a lot more personal. And what I mean by that is kind of turn the camera a little more inwardly at my life and shoot what is interesting to me on a personal level. For me, that's cooking. For me, that's traveling, camping, being outside, shooting portraits of my friends, interior spaces, stuff like that is really exciting to me. And I want to share kind of the feeling of what it feels like to be there. And ever since I started doing that, my work, I think, has changed quite a bit. I would say I've been doing that maybe over the last couple of years or so. And that's definitely a piece of advice that I would give anyone out there who's kind of struggling, trying to figure out how to make their work a little more unique, is your life is already unique. You know, we're all unique individuals. And especially as artists, you have a unique voice and a unique skill set that is, you know, focused on your life and your life only. So I think being able to share that in some sort of way, whether it's through documentation or setting up actual shoots that just align with what you're interested in, is a great way to start to make your photography stand out and make it a little bit more unique. And to kind of piggyback off of what I just said earlier, you know, this is kind of the opposite of what I would normally do in the past, which is hop on trends. And, you know, social media obviously is all about trends. And when someone does something that works, people tend to just copy it over and over again until it gets beat down. And I think this is much more of a long-term approach. Again, when you're thinking about making timeless work, you're not thinking about next year. You're not even maybe thinking about 5 years from now. It might be 10, 15, 20 years down the line. And that's kind of the longevity that you want your work to potentially have. And for me, this is something that I'm very interested in doing. I want my work to not only feel unique, but I want it to feel like it has some longevity to it, like it's not going to go out of style in a couple years. And I think that is one of the toughest things to do with photography, especially in this day and age with social media. I think honestly, this is a big reason why I gravitate towards landscape images and I shoot so much landscape photos, is because to me, those feel very timeless, and I love capturing a scene in a certain moment, a certain time of year, you know, a certain time of day, and that's going to be unique, right? It's going to be unique to the day, to the time of the year, where I'm at, who I'm with. But I don't want to just stop there. I love shooting a whole kind of travel story and scene of the people that I'm with, what we're up to, and what it feels like to be there. And I think that's really difficult to do as well, is to kind of convey a feeling or an emotion with your work rather than just share something beautiful. And that's something I definitely want to work on a lot more going forward, is trying to convey more feeling and emotion through my work and just make people feel like they're there with me. Now, all this to be said, I think it's just important in general to get out there and shoot as much as you possibly can. I think a lot of people, they sit at home and they think about what kind of image they want to make in their head, and then they wait until that is perfectly crystal clear until they go out and do it. And I think, honestly, that's the wrong way to go about it. As a chronic overthinker myself, I think it's really important to get out there and shoot, even if you only have a half-ass or, kind of partial idea of what you might want to make. And I think you got to leave a lot of this up to chance and, interesting things that are just going to come about while you're out there taking photos. For me, taking road trips is the perfect way to do this because I don't really ever have too much of a plan when I go out on a road trip. For this road trip coming up, I'm going to be by myself for at least half of the trip. I think that's going to give me so much time and, time to get inspired and time to shoot. But I don't really have an idea in my mind of what I'm going to make just yet. I think when I can, I love leaving all that up to chance and up to what I just feel like fits on the day of. Now, obviously, photography can also be very planned out, and there is a time and place for that. I think I'm more talking about personal work and the stuff that you're shooting on your own time. Leave it up a little bit to chance, leave it up a little bit to just what's going to work, what's not going to work on the day, right? And I think it's a good idea to have a little bit of an idea of what you're going to be able to shoot, but other than that, I think leaving it up to just what you feel like and what feels right is a great idea. I think something else that's really important when it comes to making work that potentially could be timeless or kind of stand out and hold its longevity is to eventually find your photographic voice. And I think this is something that I'm definitely still working through. I don't think that you ever really find it perfectly. I think you probably go through waves of it, if I had to guess. I think I'm definitely trending towards really finding exactly what I want to be shooting. But I hope that would change over time, and I think that's the most beautiful thing about photography is it's an ever-evolving sort of career and art form. And when I look at my own work, living here in California at this moment, I'm going to be making very different work than, 15, 20, 30 years down the line. And that's really exciting. I think what's most important about that is it allows you to kind of have these chapters of your work and of your life and, making books, making publications of some sort, categorizing your work and sharing it in groups over time, I think is really cool because it does show different kind of sections and chapters of your life. And if you take all of that and, again, as I said, kind of look inwardly and shoot a little bit more of your life and what personally interests you, I think all of this together will give you a better idea of how to start to make work that feels a little more timeless over time. Now, with all this being said, this is just my personal opinion, my personal advice, but I do think I've learned quite a bit over the years, and this is kind of the headspace that I'm in right now. So with all that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I want to do more of these videos in the future where I just kind of sit down and chat with you guys. It's been a while since I've done any video like this, to be honest, and it feels good. So if you have any ideas or questions, leave them down below. And before this video wraps up, I did want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Squarespace, for sponsoring today's episode. If you are looking to create a custom website from scratch without all the coding and hassles that come with it, Squarespace is by far the best choice out there, in my opinion, to make a beautiful website. They have easy to use templates, which make creating a beautiful theme that much easier, 24/7 customer support for all of your questions, and tons of customizable design and layout choices to really make your website stand out. For a photographer like myself, running a small business with multiple different kinds of needs, Squarespace really just makes sense. If you're interested in trying out Squarespace for yourself, go to squarespace.com/Samuel Elkins, which is in the description, to get 10% off your first website or domain purchase. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next week.